Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today, solo again. Today, I am here to give you and a couple of my other friends. I'm gonna do this. This might get me a lot of hate, but one of my friends slash co-hosts said that I couldn't come up with something like this. Said that I shouldn't do it. Said that he'd delete this if I made this. This is my top 5 reasons Marvel is better than DC. Number 1, Marvel in general is more relatable than DC. From the humble upbringing of the idea that characters have issues. DC didn't always have characters that had issues. A lot of DC characters still overcame problems, but they never had issues. It just kind of passed over. Marvel was the first to actually have issues. From the humble beginnings of the Fantastic Four, when the Fantastic Four were, they weren't just a happy-go-lucky family. No, they had problems with each other. The Thing had problems with Johnny Storm, and Reed and Sue had marital problems. They have problems. Marvel characters have actual problems, not just rich people problems, not just God power kind of problems, like actual living problems. You don't have to look any further than Spider-Man. Spider-Man is I like Spider-Man more than most DC characters because he is the most relatable character ever created. He is a kid. He's a normal kid. He was a normal kid who's dealing with problems. Even with all this power, even being a superhero, sometimes he can't pay his rent. Sometimes he can't make it to work on time. Sometimes he can't make it to a date on time. Sometimes he can't make it to make his grade. He has actual real world problems. As in on DC side, who's got problems really? Like Batman. I'm sorry, I can't relate to you, Batman. As much as I love you, Batman's my second favorite superhero of all time. But as much as I love Batman, I'm sorry, I'm not freaking a billionaire. My parents didn't get gunned down. I don't have access to be able to go to every freaking school on the planet, and I don't have the money to be able to travel to every freaking place around the world to learn all that stuff. It's just it doesn't really, as cool as it is, Batman as an idea is just not relatable. You know what I mean? It's just not realistic. And you go with Superman, Wonder Woman, they're just not very relatable. Maybe Superman was relatable in the beginning, but eventually he just becomes completely unrelatable because he's just so OP. So, and that's the thing with Marvel. Marvel keeps their characters, even characters like, Tony Stark to a degree, are more relatable because of the way he acts. He has insecurities. He has these problems. Batman seems to perfectly gathered, and Tony always seems like you never really know. He changes his mind. He has insecurities. He has these different things going on in his head. You know what I mean? Marvel always seemed a little bit more relatable, especially with the mutants, for instance. The mutants are the greatest thing I've seen. It was one of the greatest for the X-Men and whatnot. The X-Men are one of the greatest creations in comic books to me on this level because the X-Men are minorities. You know what I mean? The X-Men were almost, not completely, almost created to speak to minorities. Even Xavier representing Martin Luther King, and Magneto representing Malcolm X. They were actually created from the ideas of those characters. That's why I always say Marvel's always, a little bit more relatable. They're always a little bit more on things, you know what I mean? So that's my number 1 reason. My number 2 reason is that I think that, in general, DC can't really get their movies together very well. They get DC. I've always thought DC had an edge over Marvel in maybe animated shows in the beginning, but now the animated shows aren't as good. DC has a little bit of an edge over Marvel on television, but when it comes to the movies, it's far in between. Outside of the Christopher Reeve movies and the Dark Knight trilogy, and that last Dark Knight was kind of sketchy, DC has yet to really make a movie very memorable. It's only the Dark Knight movies. It's only the Batman and Christopher Reeve movies. None of the other movies have happened. I was telling my friends this. It's crazy. We live in a world where we saw Guardians of the Galaxy before we saw Aquaman on screen. We see Ant-Man. Where's Adam's movie? We're about to see Where's Dr. Fate's movie? I mean, we've seen Quicksilver on screen in two different kind of things. We still have not seen the Flash. So that's what I kind of say with like Marvel. Marvel has a better grip on this than I think DC does. Because DC, right now, they seem like they're rushing things. Like, right now, they seem like they're just rushing to get to the Justice League, rushing to catch up to Marvel, and everybody's just eating it up. Now, I'm hoping it works out for DC. But as a comparison, Marvel is way ahead, and Marvel is doing this way better than DC. I want to make the comparison to Man of Steel to Iron Man, the first Iron Man, because let's face it, they should be compared because they're the beginnings of their universes. Iron Man was way better than Man of Steel, both critically and every other way. So, movie-wise, Marvel's kicking DC's ass. Another thing, number 3, I think Marvel has better and stronger and more complex female superheroes and villains. I think, because like, I was talking the other day to a friend on Instagram, and I was telling him, I was like, Wonder Woman, the story around her is cool, but as a character, she is bland. And outside of Wonder Woman, I can't really think of any, maybe Canary and Batgirl and maybe Supergirl, who Supergirl I really don't like either. And I sort of like Canary, but like, Catwoman is the most interesting character Interesting woman is the most complex woman in the entire DC universe. When I think of Marvel, like on Watch Mojo did the top 10 heroine, and DC had 3 guys on the list. Marvel had 7. And I think of Marvel, I think when you think of female heroine, you think of Wonder Woman, but then after that, it's all Marvel after that. You think of Jean Grey, you think of Storm, Rogue, Captain Marvel, Black Widow. Like, you could just keep going on and on with that, because Marvel is a little, and like their character's a little more complex, like Black Widow, in the sense that she feels guilty for the things she's done in the past, and she went through this whole complex story. I'm sure if you saw the Avengers Age of Ultron, they kind of hint at it. So you see Black Widow's gone. She's got a whole bunch of complex things going on. And then you got like Scarlet Witch, who, her father's Magneto, her and her brother, that whole deal. They're a little bit more complex, like Storm, being grown up in Africa, being thought of as a, God, and coming with Xavier, and you could just keep going on and on. And Jean Grey also, who has the Phoenix Force in her. So, I've always just felt like Marvel's always been done better with the female heroes. Marvel, think about it like this. Jessica Jones, I think, is one of the most unknown female superheroes, yet she is getting more praise than a lot of other superheroes on DC's side right now because of how serious it is. And which leads me to my 4th one. Marvel, quite honestly, has bigger balls than DC. I know what you're thinking. Bigger balls. What do you mean by that? Well, let me explain. Marvel were the first guy, like, people keep getting confused. Marvel were the first guys to have a superhero, a mainstream superhero, who just straight up killed people, in the Punisher. Marvel created Wolverine. He was not an original X-Men, who became this badass Enigma, my personal favorite superhero, who is everything, who is rugged. He smokes cigars, he drinks alcohol. Then Marvel had things like that, with the Deadpools and Marvel were the first to really have superheroes who were killers, like in the mainstream, like superheroes who aren't exactly completely on the rockers. Like, Marvel, in my opinion, redefined the term anti-hero with a lot of the heroes they have. Marvel really did. And like I said, and going with that Marvel has bigger balls things, Marvel, granted, they didn't have Spider-Man in the beginning and didn't have some of their bigger names, but Marvel, if you just look at the way Marvel was built, off of a name like Iron Man, you know what I mean? Marvel had the guts to actually make an Ant-Man movie. Marvel had the guts to actually make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you know what I mean? Like, that movie alone, those 2 movies alone, tells you how big a kahunas Marvel is carrying. Like, Marvel is carrying a big stick, and they do not want to slow down. It seems like DC is just trying everything they can to catch up to Marvel, and I'm not sure they can. But like I said, even in the comic book world, Marvel has always had a little advantage in that department because they've always done a little bit more, not realistic, but yeah, in the Marvel world, I gotta admit, like, it's funny because in the TV show, in like movie land, Marvel is considered a little less realistic than DC. But in the comic world, I would say that it's the opposite. Marvel is a lot more realistic than DC, even in the sense that Marvel doesn't even uses real cities. I mean, they have a couple fake ones, but most of the time it's real cities. So that's even another thing right there. That, like I said in the beginning, there were real world problems, and also I think that DC gets a little trapped in the whole gods and goddesses thing. Like someone once said to me or said on YouTube, I was looking at I can't remember the channel, but I was looking at it, and some guy said that he was like, it always feels like Marvel characters are more so normal men who were bestowed upon godlike powers, and they're just trying to deal with it. And I always feel like DC characters were gods who are trying to pretend to be humans, which is basically what they are. It really is what they are. And number five, these Marvel's villains are way more complex and way more interesting. In my opinion. You think about it like this. Like, a guy like Doom, a guy like Magneto, a guy's like, freaking the Kingpin. Guys like that, if they were in the DC universe, would completely take over. I mean, someone once told me that only reason Batman is interesting is because he's a Marvel hero in a DC universe. That's the only reason he's as interesting as he is. Because I was thinking about this. If you drop Batman into the Marvel universe, he's just an ordinary guy. He's just a normal, ordinary dude. Like, he's just another rich vigilante. Like, cool. Like, that's literally how it would be if you dropped him into the Marvel universe. Now, I'm not making this video to clarify, like, that DC just claim that Marvel is immediately better than DC. I'm making this video to tell you why I personally think Marvel is better than DC. I think Marvel is a little bit more relevant than DC. I mean, especially with things like Winter Soldier, things like Civil War. Like, Civil War actually, and that's the thing, a lot of people getting hyped about Batman versus Superman. And, like, they're saying, oh, well, Civil War, whatever. But I'm like, you gotta remember, Batman versus Superman is just a pump-up thing. It's just like, oh, let's throw the biggest names we can think of on the screen and just see them fight. At least Captain America Civil War isn't Captain America versus Iron Man. They didn't put that on there. They didn't, like, promote Captain America versus Iron Man. It was Captain America Civil War because it's Captain America versus Iron Man versus Black Widow versus Black Panther versus Hawkeye versus Vision versus... It's a war. Like, it's not just a slug fight that we all know how it's going to end. We have no idea how Civil War is going to end. We assume we know how it's going to end, but we don't. But with Batman vs. Superman, you know how it's going to end, and if you saw the last trailer, you know who the villain is. You have, in Civil War, you haven't even seen a glimpse of Zemo. You haven't even seen a glimpse of Spider-Man. And that's the thing. Marvel was kicking DC's ass without any other A+. Without the X-Men, without the Fantastic Four, without anything. DC couldn't gather anything together. And I hate these people who keep telling me that, oh, DC had a plan to make a universe the entire time. If they had a plan to make a universe, they would have did it a long ass time ago. So shut the hell up. Okay. They did it because Marvel was doing it so goddamn well. And they were just like, dude, we gotta get in there. We gotta make a universe. And now they're rushing the goddamn thing. And everybody's gonna go. And this is exactly what's gonna happen. I'm hoping I'm wrong because I really want the DC universe to work. I really want everything to work out for the DC universe. But in my opinion, in my real opinion, it's gonna be like Man of Steel. It's gonna be a movie that diehard DC fans and diehard Superman fans love. But people like me, actual moviegoers, actual people who see a movie, actual people who have eyes, actual people who are not totally as invested into it as they are gonna be like, this movie did not live up to the hype. It's gonna make $1 billion no matter what, because even if this movie sucks, regardless, Batman vs. Superman I'm talking about, there's gonna be fans who go just so they can get money, just so they can make another one, just so they can continue with their. That's why Batman vs. Superman. That's why I'm a little less excited for it, because I'm just like, they know it's built-in money. They know it. That's why they put the title Batman vs. Superman on there. Nobody's gonna go see fucking Cyborg. I mean, nobody's gonna see Aquaman if they didn't come, like Aquaman if they just came and said Aquaman. I'm worried for those other movies. Like, Marvel has built a brand. Marvel has built continuity. Marvel knows what they're doing. I'm not sure DC knows what they're doing anymore. DC used to rule over the landscape. I've always viewed, and in my personal opinion, I've always viewed DC as the beginning stuff, because because a lot of DC comics are a little bit more like, I've always viewed DC as what I grew up on, but once I got old enough, I moved on to Marvel. That's what I viewed it as. I was always like, okay, DC, cool. Moving on to Marvel, moving on to more interesting, complex, and relatable characters. That's what I've always felt like. Now, granted, Superman, like one friend, Seth, pointed out, Superman can kill everybody on the planet. Yeah, that's kind of cool and all, but it's not really that interesting anymore. And I hate to be the douchebag to say this. I just said Batman's my second favorite superhero, but I am a little over him a little bit. I mean, he's had 12 movies. He's had 10 TV shows already. He had a fantastic trilogy / 4 game series that just ended a year ago. I'm just how much of Batman do I need right now? I don't even some people don't even know all the freaking Wonder Woman's. I don't even know a single Wonder Woman villain. I just recently figured out the Flash's villains. I know a couple of Superman's villains. None of those dudes have made it on the big screen. We've seen every freaking iteration of Batman's villains, and he still just keeps. And I'm just and it kind of irks me when people go, "Oh, I'm tired of Marvel." I'm like, but you're not tired of Batman? Some girl on Marvel Movie News, which is a cool show. Gotta check that out. I love that show. I always look at it. She said that she's getting tired of Spider-Man. Oh, we have enough Spider-Man. And in my mind, I'm thinking, wait a minute. So we don't have enough Batman? So wait a minute. There's been 20 Batman movies, 10 Batman TV shows. We've seen every villain he's had, 5 different kind of people playing him. And no one's tired of Batman? Honestly, if DC wanted to impress me, the first movie they would have came out with wouldn't even have been Superman. It would have been Wonder Woman or something like that. That would have been the first movie they came out with. If they really want to impress me, because that's what I've always prized Marvel on. Marvel has the guts to come out with other movies that no one even thinks of, movies that you don't think they would have the guts to make. Ant-Man, Doctor Strange is coming out. We got freaking Black Panther coming out. It always feels to me like DC is playing this way too safe and just trying to bank on the names. So, personally, that is my reasons. I think Marvel is better than DC. Overall. I think Marvel is overall better than DC. Doesn't mean DC's bad. Doesn't mean if you love DC better that you're wrong. You probably have your reasons, but those are my reasons. I think Marvel is better. So, thank you, and don't dislike it as much as I know you're going to. Seth, don't delete it, and hey,